Let's start where I started, in the city of Peoria, Illinois. When I was a boy, we lived in a neighborhood that was very interactive. It was a blue-collar neighborhood, and the people really got to know one another. And us kids used to play an awful lot with one another. Now, about a block away, there was a family called the McCorys. Now, we really loved the McCorys. We enjoyed going to the McCorys' house because there was always something going on at the McCorys. It was an exciting place with exciting people. One day I was standing in front of McCory's house and I was looking for someone to play with. I was probably somewhere between 10 or 12 years old, and there just wasn't anybody around. So I looked in the back corner of the property and there was an old garage. And I walked back to that old garage because I was looking for something that was behind the garage, something that was of interest to us boys. It was a old wrecked car. Now that car was in a very opportune position. It was shoved up against the back of the garage, and if you were bold enough, you could get up on the garage roof and jump onto that old wreck. Hopefully you would hit in the right spot. You could bounce around for a while, make it to the ground, and then do it again. Now, I was only, again, 10 to 12 years old, and most of the people that had been doing this were the older boys. They were stronger and they could leap further. There was some danger in this whole thing, but there was no one there. And I thought, wow, if there ever was an opportunity for me to do it and not be laughed at or ridiculed, this was the time. So I climbed up on the roof. Now, when I got on the roof, it was further up than I thought it was, and I was a little scared already, and I kind of crept across the roof to the very end, and I peeked over the edge, and there was the old wreck. Now, below the old wreck was pretty miserable looking, but up here it was terrifying. As I looked down, I saw the windshield that had been broken, and it was jagged glass sticking out all over, and it looked like the mouth of a giant shark. And I contemplated jumping and missing that windshield, and then I contemplated jumping and hitting the windshield. And I went back and forth in my mind, and finally I thought, you know what? Let's wait till I'm just a little bit older. Some of the older boys had made it, and maybe when my legs are a little longer and I'm a little stronger, maybe I'll have the courage to do it then. And I turned to go back across the roof, and at that very precise time, Pete McCory and my brother climbed up on the roof. Now, they knew exactly what was going through my mind. They knew I was going back and forth with this thing. And I knew something else. I knew that if I walked past them and walked off the garage, that I would be labeled a coward. They would spread it all over the neighborhood. And the label of a coward in those days was like the kiss of death. You did not want that label. We would do almost anything not to have that label of coward. So I walked back to the edge of the roof and I looked down and I thought, you know, I was kind of caught between two great evils. Should I jump, you know, and be somewhat of a fool? Or should I sneak back across the garage and be a coward? And I went back and forth with that and kind of caught between two great evils. And all of a sudden I just jumped without thinking. Now, fear put a real spring into my leap, and I made it over the top of that jagged windshield. I hit that old rusty roof, and it kind of gave under my weight, and then it went boing, and it flipped me over the black hole that used to be a back window onto the trunk, where I slid to the ground. Hello, and welcome to Mustard Seed Ministries. My name is Bob Sutter, and I'm going to be the presenter today on this PowerPoint topic, 3 parts, about why do we serve the gods we serve. Now, you're probably wondering what that story of the old wreck has to do with the gods we serve. I promise you, by the end of this presentation, that you will see the connection. I also want to commend you on your quest for the truth. You wouldn't be listening to a video like this unless you were interested in knowing more about the truth, knowing more about how your life can have more meaning and purpose, that there's a bigger meaning, a bigger reason for the things that happen on this world. I call it a quest for the truth. I hope today, in fact, I feel very confident that when you listen to this presentation, you will have a little bit more of the puzzle that surrounds this great enigma of the gods that we serve. You can visit our website, and I invite you to do so, at mustardseedministries.org. That's mustardseedministries.org. We look forward to having you come to our website. And when you're there, look around. There's a lot of content. And also, we do ask your participation. You can write a devotional for us and send it to us. There's a format and a way to do that. And we invite you to participate in this way. And also, there's a comment button. Do us a favor and push that comment button and let us know what you think of this presentation or our website or anything that has to do with Mustard Seed Ministries. Now, we're going to start in Peoria, the place where that old wreck is here. And then we're going to go to the South Pacific, and we're going to check out what kind of gods they serve in the South Pacific, in Paradise. Then we're going to come back to the United States, to the mighty Mississippi River, and we're going to have a conversation, in a sense, with Mark Twain. Then it's out to California, a small boy in a hospital that is ready to have a very serious operation. We're going to learn quite a bit more about his story. And last but not least, we're going to visit a church somewhere in the United States, and we're going to look up a character that I call the Gruff Deacon. And we're going to learn a little bit more about his story. Stay tuned. I think you'll find it interesting and informative. And now, on with the show. The topic for today is, why do individuals serve the gods they serve? It is a very important topic. I mean, we're talking not only about our life here on earth, we're talking about eternal life. If it is true that gods or a god can give us eternal life. So it's a very important topic. Now, we're going to introduce a principle. A great evangelist of old once made the following statement: people do things for one of two reasons. It is the lesser of two evils. They desire, number two, they desire to do it from their hearts. Now, we're going to go over and over this theme, so take a good look at this. People do things for one of two reasons. It is the lesser of two evils. They desire to do it from their hearts. Now, you can just go back and look at the old wreck. Which one of these inspired me? Obviously, it was number one. It is the lesser of two evils. Let's look at a couple questions on the old wreck. A, which of the above reasons does the story of jumping onto the old wreck illustrate? Obviously, it's reason number one. I was caught between two evils. I didn't want to do either one of them, but I chose the one that I thought was the least evil. What were the two evils? Jumping onto the old wreck and concern about what my friends would think. Number C, which had I concluded was the greater of the two evils? And this is kind of surprising, concern about what my friends would think. It is absolutely amazing how much control I gave to others in those days. And I wonder if I've changed that and I've learned not to do that. Let's go back to Peoria, Illinois, and illustrate maybe the second reason. When I was a boy, we had a gang of guys that kind of hung together. And of course, it wasn't like the gangs today. These were pretty good kids. We were pretty good kids. You know, if I'm going to be intellectually honest with you, I'll have to tell you that we were kind of ornery too. But in general, we were pretty good kids. And we would go on our bikes all over Peoria. And a lot of times we'd start on Saturday mornings and we would go down Knoxville Avenue to the city of Peoria, and we'd park our bikes in a certain place. We'd lock them up good, and then we'd all kind of scatter throughout town, just kind of dinking around town. But the highlight of the whole trip was when we came back and met at the Kresge's 5 and 10. Now, that's kind of like today, like a dollar store, only there was more things. There was a soda fountain, and there was, you know, some different things that they would have, some food and so on. One of the things they had, though, was really high tech for our days. It was something we really enjoyed going down and being part of. Now, high tech in our days was this: an automatic donut machine. It was something that we had never seen before. And what it would do is it would plop out a big hunk of dough into some hot grease, and it would cook it till it was golden brown, and it would automatically flip it over. And at the end, these delicious donuts would lie there, you know, with all the wonderful smells coming off of them, filling the whole store with that smell. Now, in front of this was a glass, and that glass was there to keep us kids from sticking our hands in there and grabbing a donut or getting them in the hot grease. And there was always a crowd of people standing around that donut machine watching it and getting ready to buy donuts. And as you look down that glass, you see fingerprints all over the place. And every so often, like a nose print when we really got close. And it would take a while before we could decide how many donuts we could buy, because we didn't have a lot of money. But everything that we had, we were willing to give for one of those donuts. And when we bought one, we'd sit down and we'd guard every little morsel. We wouldn't want one crumb to hit the floor. And we would eat that thing and enjoy it all the way down. We did it because we loved them. Let's take a few questions on the automatic donut machine. Which of the two reasons does the story of the donut machine illustrate? Obviously, reason number 2, we did it from our heart. Why? It showed a desire to spend what little money we had on something our hearts desired.